What if Goku was born with the power of infinity, the Limitless Saiyan, Goku x Bulma x Android 21. Chapter 1. Origin of Infinity. The crimson sky of planet Vey. Geta blazed like the fury of 1,000 suns, casting harsh shadows across the medical complex where Bardock stood, his battle-scarred face frozen in disbelief as he stared at the readings on the monitor. His newborn son, small even by Saiyan standards, lay peacefully in a rejuvenation chamber while complex instruments analyzed his genetic makeup and power potential. "This can't be right," muttered Paragus, the chief medical officer, his fingers dancing across the control panel as he recalibrated the equipment for the third time. "The readings are impossible." Bardock's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, impossible?" "The power level isn't stabilizing at a reading. It's not that the number is high, it's that there appears to be no upper limit. The energy signature keeps expanding." Paragus looked up, his expression a mixture of awe and fear. "I've never seen anything like it. According to these readings, your son possesses what the ancient texts called the Limitless, a theoretical power with no ceiling." Bardock stepped closer to the chamber, studying the sleeping infant, his son, Kakarot. The child looked unremarkable, peaceful in his slumber, with a shock of wild black hair that resembled his own. How could such a small being contain such boundless power? "This information cannot leave this room," Bardock said quietly, his warrior's instinct sensing danger. "Not with Frieza's increasing paranoia about Saiyan potential." Paragus nodded gravely. "I understand. But Bardock, this child may represent everything Frieza fears. The legends speak of a Saiyan with limitless power who would rise to—" "I know the legends," Bardock interrupted sharply. "And so does Frieza, which is precisely why this stays between us." As Bardock departed the medical facility, his mind raced with implications. His son, a low-class warrior by birth designation, somehow possessed the rarest genetic anomaly in Saiyan history. Not the Super Saiyan transformation that had become mere legend, but something potentially greater, the capacity for truly infinite power. The warrior walked the streets of the Saiyan capital, his scouter alerting him to an incoming transmission. It was Jine, Kakarot's mother, her voice tinged with unusual concern. "Bardock, something's happening. The elite guards are recalling all scouting parties. Frieza's ship has entered orbit ahead of schedule." Bardock stopped mid-stride, a cold dread washing over him. "When? Just now. It's strange. He wasn't due back for another cycle." The pieces aligned in Bardock's mind with terrifying clarity. Somehow, Frieza had learned something. Perhaps not specifically about Kakarot, but enough to accelerate whatever plans the tyrant had been harboring. "Listen carefully," he said, keeping his voice low as he changed direction. Moving quickly toward his dwelling. "Meet me at the launch bay in 20 minutes. Bring Kakarot." "The launch bay? Why would—" "Just do it, Jine. I'll explain when I see you." Bardock ended the transmission, his pace quickening. The streets around him buzzed with unusual activity, elite soldiers mobilizing, communications becoming more frequent. Something was happening, and Uri instinct in his battle-hardened body told him time was running out. Prince Vegeta, just 7 years old but already possessing the pride and ferocity befitting the Saiyan royal bloodline, oohed rigidly before Frieza's hovering chair. The tyrant's tail swished lazily behind him, his crimson eyes regarding the young prince with cold amusement. "You wanted to see me, Lord Frieza?" Vegeta asked, forcing the respectful title past his lips while internally seething at having to bow before this creature. "Yes, my young prince," Frieza replied, his voice deceptively melodic. "I've received some interesting intelligence regarding your people. Tell me, are you familiar with the ancient Saiyan legends? The ones about special powers?" Vegeta's expression remained neutral, though his mind raced. "There are many legends, Lord Frieza. The Super Saiyan transformation is the most known." Yes, that tired old myth," Frieza waved dismissively. "But there are others, are there not? Legends of limitless potential. A Saiyan born with no ceiling to their power." The prince's eyes widened fractionally before he could control his reaction. The legend of the Limitless, a story even rarer than that of the Super Saiyan. One his father had mentioned only once in hushed tones. "That's merely a bedtime story for Saiyan children," Vegeta replied carefully. "No such Saiyan has ever existed." Frieza's smile tightened. Interesting. Because my sources indicate that such a child may have just been born. The tyrant leaned forward slightly. You're dismissed, Prince Vegeta. I suggest you remain on my ship for the next few days. Consider it a protective measure. As Vegeta departed, confusion and anger battling within him, Frieza turned to his right-hand man, Zarbon. Accelerate our plans, he ordered calmly. I want planet Vegeta eliminated by nightfall. Zarbon bowed deeply. As you wish, Lord Frieza. But may I ask what changed? We were going to wait until the prophecies speak of a Saiyan with no limit to their power, Frieza interrupted, his voice suddenly hard. Such a being would eventually become a threat even to me. I've tolerated the risk of the Super Saiyan legend because it requires specific conditions, training, emotional triggers, controllable factors. But a Saiyan born with infinity. He shook his head. That I cannot allow to mature. Do you truly believe such a Saiyan exists? Lord Frieza. The tyrant turned to gaze out the viewport at the red planet below. I can't afford to dismiss the possibility. The report indicated unusual energy. Readings from a newborn in the medical center. Readings that defied the scouters' capacity to measure. It could be nothing, but I won't gamble my empire on, could be. The launch bay was chaos when Bardock arrived. Saiyan warriors argued with dock officials, demanding ships to return to planet Vegeta. Something had triggered a mass recall of off-world forces, something that sent ice through Bardock's veins. Jine was already waiting, their infant son bundled in her arms. Her expression was confused but trusting. Bardock, what's happening? Why are all the warriors being recalled? Cause Frieza plans to destroy our planet, he said bluntly, leading her toward a small, single-pod ship designed for infants, used in the Saiyan practice of sending their young to conquer weaker worlds. Jine gasped. How could you possibly know that? Because I've seen it, Bardock replied, his voice tight with urgency as he began programming coordinates into the pod. I don't have time to explain. But ever since that mission to Kanasa, I've been having visions. Clear as day, and everything I've seen has come to pass. He turned to face his mate, his expression grave. Kakarot is special, Jine. More special than you can imagine. I've seen what he becomes, what he can be if he survives. And Frieza must have sensed something too, which is why he's moving now. Jine clutched their son tighter. But why not come with him? We could take a larger pod, escape together. Because someone needs to buy time, Bardock said softly, gently taking Kakarot from her arms. And because in every vision where we stay with him, he never reaches his potential. He needs to forge his own path. He placed the infant in the pod, his rough warrior's hands unusually gentle. I'm sending him to a planet called Earth. It's inhabited by weaklings with no significant technology or power levels. He'll be safe there. Will we ever see him again? Jine asked, tears forming in her eyes, an unusual display for a Saiyan. Bardock hesitated, then placed a hand on her shoulder. In my visions, he becomes something greater than any Saiyan has ever been. Not just powerful, but something else, something better than what we are. The pod's door began to close, and Bardock placed a hand against it, his eyes meeting those of his sleeping son for what he knew would be the last time. You are the limitless one, Kakarot, he whispered. The universe will tremble before you, not in fear, but in awe. As the pod launched, streaking away from planet Vegeta like a comet, Bardock turned to Jine. Now we fight, not to win, but to give him time to escape Frieza's notice. Above them, a massive energy ball was forming at the tip of Frieza's finger, a sun in miniature, designed to reduce their world to cosmic dust. Somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a tiny pod carrying its precious cargo hurtled toward a small blue planet. Inside, infant Kakarot slept peacefully, unaware that he was now the last hope of his race, a race that, in a flash of light visible across galaxies, had just been reduced to a memory. The pod's computer continuously monitored the child, recording strange energy flow. Situations that ebbed and flowed like cosmic tides. Even in sleep, the infant's power would occasionally surge, causing the pod's systems to temporarily malfunction before adapting to the unusual energy signature. As Earth grew from a distant speck to a looming blue sphere, the pod's programming activated its landing sequence. The timing couldn't have been worse. A massive solar flare erupted from Earth's sun just as the pod entered the atmosphere, bathing the small craft in radiation that fried its delicate guidance systems. Instead of a controlled descent into an uninhabited region, the pod plummeted wildly, crashing into a remote mountain range with enough force to create a small crater. The impact should have killed any normal infant, but Kakarot merely awoke with a startled cry, his innate power having unconsciously formed a protective bubble around him. The pod's door, damaged in the crash, opened automatically, exposing the Saiyan child to Earth's environment for the first time. The air was cleaner than planet Vegeta's, the gravity lighter, the sound softer. Kakarot's cries echoed across the mountain valley, carrying on the wind. Miles away, an elderly man named Gohan paused in his morning meditation, his head tilting as the sound reached his sensitive ears. A martial arts master who had long ago retreated to the mountains for a life of peaceful contemplation, Gohan Rely encountered others in his secluded domain. The cry was unmistakably that of a child, an impossibility in these remote mountains. Curiosity piqued, Gohan followed the sound, his old but agile body navigating the difficult terrain with practiced ease. When he crested a ridge and saw the smoking crater below, his eyes widened in disbelief. What in the world? Approaching cautiously, Gohan peered into the crater to find a strange metal sphere unlike anything he had ever seen, and inside, a small baby with wild black hair and a tail. Well, hello there, little one, Gohan said gently, reaching into the pod. Where did you come from? As his hands made contact with the child, Gohan felt an extraordinary energy emanating from the tiny body, a power so vast and unusual that it made the old martial artist momentarily dizzy. In his decades of training and meditation, Gohan had become sensitive to the life energy, key, of all living things. But this child's energy was unlike anything he had ever encountered. It didn't simply flow, it seemed endless, like trying to measure the depth of the ocean with a ruler. The baby stopped crying as Gohan lifted him, curious eyes taking in the old man's weathered face. You're a long way from home, aren't you? Gohan murmured, noticing the strange symbols on the pod and the unusual material of the child's clothing. Well, I can't just leave you here. As Gohan turned to carry the baby back to his cabin, the infant suddenly sneezed, and with that small, involuntary action, released a burst of energy that knocked Gohan backward several feet. The old man sat up, stunned, as the baby giggled delightedly. My goodness, Gohan whispered, a smile forming despite his shock. You're going to be quite the handful, aren't you? I think I'll call you Goku. It means, aware of emptiness, and something tells me you're going to fill a great emptiness in this world someday. Years passed in the peaceful mountain dwelling, and young Goku grew from an unusually strong infant into an extraordinarily powerful child. By the age of 4, he could lift boulders that Gohan struggled to move, and his speed was already beyond that of any normal human. But these physical attributes paled in comparison to the strange energy that seemed to radiate from the boy in waves. Gohan, a master of martial arts who had studied ki manipulation for decades, found himself constantly amazed and occasionally alarmed by Goku's natural abilities. The boy didn't need to be taught how to access his energy, the challenge was teaching him how to contain it. Grandpa, look what I can do. A 6-year-old Goku shouted excitedly one morning, holding out his small palm toward a nearby dead tree. Before Gohan could respond, a blast of pure energy erupted from the child's hand, not only disintegrating the tree but carving a trench through the forest beyond it that stretched for nearly a mile. Goku's excited expression fell as he saw the destruction he'd caused. Oops, I was just trying to knock it over. Gohan placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. This is why we practice control, Goku. Your power is exceptional. But without control, it can be dangerous. Why am I so different, Grandpa? Goku asked, his innocent eyes looking up at the old man. Why can I do things you can't? Gohan had often wondered the same thing. He had his suspicions about Goku's origins, the pod, the tail, the unlimited energy, but had kept them to himself, choosing instead to raise the boy with love and moral guidance. Everyone is unique in their own way, Gohan replied carefully. Your power is your gift, but how you use it will define who you are. Remember what I've taught you. Great power demands great responsibility. That night, as they sat beside their small campfire under the stars, Gohan shared ancient legends with Goku, stories of warriors who used their strength to protect rather than conquer, of heroes who found that true power came from compassion rather than domination. The strongest fighter one ever knew, Gohan told the wide-eyed boy, was not the one who could break mountains or move the fastest. It was Master Roshi, who understood that true strength comes from here. He tapped Goku's chest, just over his heart. Is Master Roshi stronger than me? Goku asked innocently. Gohan chuckled. In the ways that matter most, perhaps. Someday, if you learn to control your power, I'll take you to meet him. But that day would never come. Just 2 weeks later, on the night of the full moon, tragedy struck. Gohan had always been careful to send Goku to bed early on nights when the moon was full, having noticed strange behavioral changes in the boy when he gazed at it. But on this particular night, Goku had snuck out to practice his martial arts in the moonlight. Determined to master a difficult technique Gohan had been teaching him. When the elderly man awoke to the sound of a monstrous roar, he rushed outside to find a giant ape-like creature where his grandson had been. A creature with Goku's tail, but 50 feet tall and filled with mindless rage. The great ape form, the Uzaru transformation that all Saiyans possessed, combined with Goku's already limitless power, had created something truly terrifying. Goku. Gohan called out desperately. Goku, it's me. You must control yourself. The creature turned, its massive red eyes showing no recognition. Gohan had faced many dangers in his long life, but nothing like this. Yet he couldn't bring himself to harm the being that, despite its current form, was still his beloved grandson. In a desperate attempt to reach the boy within the beast, Gohan approached, hands raised peacefully. Goku, I know you're in there. Remember who you are. Remember what I taught you about control. For a moment, something flickered in the creature's eyes, a glimmer of recognition, a hesitation in its rampage. But then a cloud passed from the moon, bathing the area in intensified lunar light. And the moment was lost. What happened next occurred so quickly that even Gohan, with all his martial arts mastery, couldn't avoid it. The creature's massive hand swung out, catching the old man and sending him crashing through trees and boulders. By the time his broken body came to rest, Son Gohan, the kind man who had raised an alien child as his own, was already leaving this world. With his final breath, he whispered, Goku, it's not your fault. Your power, use it, for good. By morning, Goku had reverted to his human form, waking naked and confused in the midst of destruction. When he found his grandfather's body, the boy's anguished cries echoed across the mountains, his grief triggering energy surges that caused rockslides miles away. For days, Goku refused to leave Gohan's side, his young mind struggling to understand what had happened. He had no memory of transforming, no understanding of why his beloved grandfather lay lifeless before him. All he knew was that something terrible had occurred, and somehow, he felt responsible. After burying Gohan on a beautiful overlook, his grandfather's favorite meditation spot, Goku returned to their small cabin, more alone than he had ever been. The 4-star Dragon Ball, a mysterious orange sphere that Gohan had treasured, became Goku's most prized possession, a memento of the only family he had ever known. I promise, Grandpa, the young boy whispered to the Dragon Ball, believing his grandfather's spirit resided within it, I'll learn to control my power. I'll use it to protect, just like you wanted. That night, as Goku sat alone in the cabin that now felt too large and too empty, he made a decision. He would honor his grandfather by mastering his unusual abilities. Without understanding the cosmic significance of his Saiyan heritage or the true nature of his limitless power, the young boy committed himself to a path that would eventually reshape the destiny of multiple worlds. 2 years passed, and Goku lived alone in the mountains, surviving on his extraordinary instincts and the skills Gohan had taught him. Now 8 years old, the boy had grown stronger still, though the full extent of his power remained dormant. Held in check by both his limited understanding and the unconscious mental barriers he had erected after Gohan's death, his lonely existence continued unchanged. Until one fateful day when the roar of an unfamiliar machine echoed through his forest. Curious and cautious, Goku tracked the sound to a clearing where he found the strangest creature he had ever seen. N. What appeared to be a monster on wheels. When the monster stopped and a blue-haired girl emerged from inside it, Goku was even more confused. He had never seen another human besides his grandfather, and certainly never a female. Hello, the girl called out, consulting a strange device in her hand. Is anyone here? The Dragon Ball should be nearby. Goku dropped from his tree, landing silently behind her. What's a Dragon Ball? The girl screamed, whirling around with such speed that she tripped over her own feet and fell backward. Don't sneak up on people like that, she shouted, clutching her chest. You nearly gave me a heart attack. Goku tilted his head curiously. What's a heart attack? Is that some kind of fighting technique? The girl stared at him, taking in his wild hair, simple clothes, and the brown tail that swished behind him. Are you human? I'm Goku, he replied simply. Who are you? I'm Bulma, she said, still eyeing him warily as she stood up and dusted herself off. Bulma briefs. And I asked if you're human. People don't usually have tails. Goku shrugged. Grandpa didn't have a tail either. He said I was special. Bulma's scientific curiosity overtook her initial shock. She approached the boy carefully, her analytical mind already cataloging his unusual features. Your grandfather. Where is he now? A shadow passed over Goku's face. He died 2 years ago. Oh, I'm sorry, Bulma said, genuine sympathy in her voice. So you live out here all alone? In the mountains? Goku nodded, then pointed to the device in her hand. What's that thing? And you still didn't tell me what a Dragon Ball is. Bulma held up the device, a radar with a grid display and blinking dots. This is a dragon radar. I invented it to track Dragon Balls like these. She reached into her pouch and produced 2 orange spheres, each with a different number of red stars embedded within them. Goku's eyes widened. You have Grandpa's ball. What? No, these are mine. But Goku had already rushed back to his cabin, returning moments later with the 4-star Dragon Ball cradled reverently in his small hands. See, Grandpa gave this to me. It's my most important treasure. Bulma's excitement was palpable. That's the 4-star ball. I can't believe it. She quickly composed herself, seeing the protective way Goku held the sphere. Listen, Goku. These aren't just pretty balls. When all 7 Dragon Balls are brought together, they summon a dragon who can grant any wish. Any wish? Goku repeated skeptically. Like what? Like anything. Wealth, power, fame. Bulma's eyes took on a dreamy quality. The perfect boyfriend. Goku wrinkled his nose. That sounds silly. What's a boyfriend? Bulma sighed. Never mind that. The point is, I need to collect all 7 Dragon Balls, and you have one of them. You can't have Grandpa's ball, Goku said firmly, clutching it tighter. It's all I have left of him. Bulma studied the unusual boy, her mind working quickly. Based on his incredible naivety and the tale, which she was increasingly convinced was real, she suspected Goku was either not entirely human or had been raised in complete isolation. Either way, he might be useful on her quest. What if you came with me? She suggested. You can keep your Dragon Ball, and we'll find the others together. It would be an adventure. Surely more exciting than staying here alone. Goku considered this. His grandfather had often spoken of the world beyond their mountain, of cities and people and experiences Goku had never known. Perhaps this was his chance to explore that world. Will there be strong people to fight? He asked, eyes lighting up. Bulma blinked, taken aback by the question. Maybe. It could be dangerous. Which is actually another good reason for you to come along. You look pretty tough. Goku grinned. Grandpa taught me martial arts. I'm the strongest person in the world. The declaration, made with childish confidence, caused Bulma to laugh. As that's so, well, mighty warrior, how about you protect me on this quest then? Okay, Goku agreed enthusiastically, but I need to bring Grandpa's ball with us. And so began an unlikely partnership. The brilliant teenage scientist and the mysterious boy with a tail, that would ultimately change the course of history. As they set off in Bulma's capsule car, neither could have imagined the extraordinary adventures that awaited them, or how their lives would become inextricably intertwined. The first night of their journey, camped beside a river. Bulma observed Goku with increasing fascination. The boy moved with an unnatural grace, catching fish with his bare hands and lifting boulders to create a windbreak with no apparent effort. But it was the strange energy she occasionally felt emanating from him that truly piqued her scientific curiosity. "Goku," she asked as they sat by the campfire, "has anything unusual ever happened when you get angry or excited?" The boy paused mid-bite, a flicker of pain crossing his features. "Sometimes things break around me. Or burn. Grandpa said I need to learn control." "Control of what, exactly?" Goku set down his fish, looking at his palms. "Grandpa called it ki. He said everyone has it, but mine is different." To demonstrate, Goku held out his hand, focusing intently. A small L ball of light formed above his palm, a simple ki manifestation that most trained martial artists could achieve after years of practice. But then the ball began to grow, its light intensifying until Bulma had to shield her eyes. "Goku, that's enough," she cried, alarmed by the sudden heat and pressure emanating from the energy sphere. The boy closed his fist, dissipating the energy. "See, Grandpa, I could make tiny balls that stayed small. Mine always want to get bigger." Bulma's mind raced with implications. Energy manipulation was theoretically possible. Her father had discussed the concept, to see it manifested so casually by a child was astonishing. If she could study this, understand its properties. "Has anyone else ever seen you do that?" she asked carefully. Goku shook his head. "Just Grandpa. He said not to show people because they might get scared or want to use my power for bad things." "Your grandfather was wise," Bulma said thoughtfully. "Listen, Goku, I study science. I try to understand how things work. Would you let me learn more about your abilities? I promise I won't tell anyone if you don't want me to." "Will it help me control it better?" Goku asked hopefully. Bulma smiled. "Maybe we can help each other. I'll study your energy, and maybe together we can find ways for you to manage it more easily." Their conversation was interrupted by rustling in the bushes. Goku was on his feet instantly, moving with such speed that Bulma barely saw him. When he returned seconds later, he was dragging a man in a black suit who struggled futilely against the boy's grip. "Let me go, you little monster," the man sputtered. "He was watching us," Goku explained, seemingly unfazed by the man's weight or struggles. "I could feel his energy." Bulma approached cautiously. "Who are you? Why were you spying on us?" The man's eyes darted between them, fear evident in his expression. "I work for the Red Ribbon Army. We detected an unusual energy signature in this region," his eyes fixed on Goku. "It was you, wasn't it? The power spike from earlier." "Red Ribbon Army," Bulma repeated, her blood running cold. Even in her sheltered life as the daughter of the world's richest scientist, she had heard rumors of this military organization, their ruthless methods and obsession with acquiring power. The man smirked despite his predicament. "You're in trouble now. I've already transmitted your location. A retrieval team will be here by morning to collect the boy for study." Goku looked confused, but Bulma understood the threat immediately. An organization like the Red Ribbon Army would stop at nothing to weaponize Goku's abilities. "We need to leave," she said urgently. "Now, what about him?" Goku asked, nodding toward their captive. Bulma thought quickly. "Tie him up. We'll leave him here. Someone will find him eventually." As they hastily packed their camp, Bulma's mind worked furiously. They needed a place to hide, somewhere the Red Ribbon Army couldn't easily follow. According to her dragon radar, the nearest ball was to the south, near a place called Fire Mountain. "Goku," she said as they climbed into her capsule car, "have you ever heard of Master Roshi?" The boy's eyes lit up. "Grandpa said he's the strongest martial artist in the world. He was Grandpa's teacher." "Well, I think it's time you met him. If anyone can help us understand your powers, and protect you from the Red Ribbon Army, it's the Turtle Hermit." As they sped away into the night, leaving the bound spy behind, neither noticed the small drone hovering high above them, transmitting images and data to a distant command center where a gray-haired scientist watched with growing interest. "Most fascinating drive," Jero murmured, zooming in on the footage of the boy. "Energy readings off the charts, and apparently self-generating. This could be the breakthrough I've been seeking." Dawn broke over the eastern mountains as Bulma's car sped along a coastal road. They had driven through the night, taking turns keeping watch, though Goku seemed barely tired despite the lack of sleep. We should reach Master Roshi's island by midday, Bulma said, consulting a map. Assuming he's still there. My father mentioned meeting him years ago. Goku sat up suddenly, his senses alert. Something's coming. From above, Bulma looked up through the wind-shield to see 3 black helicopters approaching rapidly, each bearing the distinctive double R insignia of the Red Ribbon Army. They found us already, she gasped, pressing the accelerator to the floor. The car lurched forward, but the helicopters easily kept pace. An amplified voice boomed from the lead aircraft. Attention! Stop your vehicle immediately. We only want the boy. Cooperate and you will not be harmed. Don't stop, Goku said, his young face suddenly serious in a way that made him seem much older. I can handle them. Before Bulma could respond, Goku had opened the car door and leapt out, while they were traveling at over 60 miles per hour. He rolled skillfully upon impact with the ground, then stood facing the approaching helicopters. Goku! Bulma screamed, slamming on the brakes. What are you doing? Quote. The boy didn't answer. Instead, he planted his feet firmly, cupped his hands at his side, and began to concentrate. Energy gathered between his palms, slowly at first, then with increasing intensity. The helicopters slowed their approach, hovering cautiously. A side door opened on the lead aircraft, revealing a man with a megaphone. Stand down, boy. We have orders to take you alive. But we will use force if necessary. Goku's expression remained determined. The energy in his hands had formed into a brilliant blue sphere, pulsating with power that did the air around him waver like a heat mirage. Leave us alone, he shouted up at them. Me. Bulma watched in astonishment as the energy continued to build. The ground beneath Goku's feet began to crack, small pebbles rising into the air as if gravity had temporarily abandoned them. Me. The helicopters began to retreat, their pilots finally sensing the danger. But it was too late. Goku thrust his hands forward, and a massive beam of blue-white energy erupted from his palms, shooting toward the lead helicopter. The pilot attempted a desperate evasive maneuver, but the beam clipped the tail rotor, sending the aircraft into a spin. The other 2 helicopters broke formation, one retreating while the other opened fire, but not with bullets. Instead, it launched a net that expanded in midair, crackling with electricity. Goku! Look out! Bulma cried. The boy leapt impossibly high, easily clearing the net, then grabbed it as it passed beneath him. With a twist of his body, he hurled it back at the helicopter with such force that it wrapped around the aircraft's main rotor, causing it to stall. As both damaged helicopters made emergency landings on the coastal road, the third retreated over the horizon. Soldiers began to emerge from the downed aircraft, weapons raised. Bulma screeched to a halt beside Goku, flinging open the passenger door. Get in, now. This time he obeyed, jumping into the car as Bulma accelerated past the stranded soldiers. In the rearview mirror, she could see them speaking urgently into communication devices. That was incredible, she said, glancing at Goku, who seemed barely winded by the encounter. But also terrifying. What was that technique? The Kamehameha wave, Goku replied. Grandpa showed me once, but he said it took him 50 years to master. I've been practicing. Bulma nearly drove off the road in shock. 50 years. And you just, figured it out on your own? Goku shrugged. It's just about moving your energy the right way. I can show you. No, Bulma exclaimed hastily. No demonstrations in the car, please. As they continued their journey, now more urgently than before, Bulma's mind was awhirl with questions. Who exactly was this boy sitting beside her? What was the true extent of his powers? And what would an organization like the Red Ribbon Army do with such abilities if they managed to capture him? One thing was clear, their quest for the Dragon Balls had just become far more complicated. Master Roshi's island was exactly as Bulma's father had described it, a T.N.Y. speck of land with a single pink house bearing the words, "Came House," on its side. As they approached in a small boat, Bulma having capsulized her car at the mainland dock, Goku bounced with excitement. Do you think he'll train me? Grandpa said Master Roshi knows all kinds of special techniques. Bulma guided the boat toward the small dock. Let's focus on getting his help with the Red Ribbon Army first. And understanding your powers. An elderly man with sunglasses and a turtle shell on his back emerged from the house as they docked, leaning on a gnarled wooden staff. Despite his aged appearance, Bulma could sense something unusual about him, a presence or energy that suggested hidden depths. Visitors. That's rare, the old man called out. What brings you to my humble island? Goku leapt from the boat before it had fully stopped, landing on the dock with perfect balance. Are you Master Roshi? The turtle hermit. Grandpa Gohan told me all about you. The name visibly startled the old master. Gohan. Son Gohan. His gaze sharpened behind his sunglasses, taking in Goku's appearance more carefully. And who might you be, young man? I'm Goku, son Goku. Grandpa found me in the mountains and raised me. Master Roshi approached slowly, circling Goku with a thoughtful expression. He paused when he noticed the boy's tail. Interesting, very interesting. Gohan mentioned, finding something unusual in his letters, but he was never specific. He looked up at Bulma, who had just tied up the boat. And you, young lady? Bulma Briefs, she replied, extending her hand. Dr. Briefs' daughter, we need your help. Master Roshi. Goku is being hunted by the Red Ribbon Army because of his special abilities. Special abilities, Roshi stroked his beard. Show me, boy. Goku looked to Bulma, who nodded encouragingly. The boy turned toward the ocean, cupped his hands at his side, and performed a controlled Kamehameha wave, smaller than the one he'd used against the helicopters. But still impressive enough to part the sea for several hundred yards. Master Roshi's staff clattered to the ground. The Kamehameha wave, but that's impossible. It took me decades to perfect that technique. Grandpa showed it to me once, Goku explained. I've been practicing. There's more, Bulma added. His energy seems unlimited. He doesn't tire like normal people. And he's incredibly strong. I've seen him lift boulders that would require heavy machinery. Roshi retrieved his staff, his demeanor suddenly serious. Come inside. We have much to discuss. Inside the Kame house, Roshi listened intently as they recounted their journey, the encounter with the Red Ribbon Army, and Bulma's observations about Goku's unusual abilities. When they finished, the old master sat in silence for several long moments. His gaze fixed on Goku. I suspected Gohan had found something extraordinary when he stopped visiting and sending letters, Roshi finally said. He mentioned a child with unusual potential, but said he needed to focus on training and protecting you. He leaned forward. Goku, I don't believe you're entirely human. What do you mean? Goku asked, confused. The tail, the unlimited energy, the innate fighting ability, these suggest something beyond normal human capabilities. I've traveled widely in my long life and heard legends of beings from beyond our world. Roshi turned to Bulma. Your scientific mind has surely considered this possibility. Bulma nodded. The thought had occurred to me. But it seemed so fantastic. Reality often exceeds our limited imagination. Roshi said wisely. Whatever Goku's origins, he now faces a very real threat. The Red Ribbon Army is not known for their gentle methods. Will you help us? Bulma asked. Roshi stroked his beard thoughtfully. Gohan was my finest student. Helping his grandson is the least I can do. But understand this, if Goku's power is truly as limitless as you suggest, then training him isn't about making him stronger. It's about teaching him control, focus, and wisdom. That's what Grandpa always said, Goku interjected. He said I need to learn control. Your grandfather was wise indeed, Roshi nodded. Very well. You may stay here while I assess Goku's abilities and teach him some fundamental techniques for energy control. But this island is too exposed for long-term soft. Eddie from an organization like the Red Ribbon Army. Bulma looked relieved. Thank you, Master Roshi. In the meantime, I can try to learn more about why they're so interested in Goku specifically. My father has connections that might be useful. As night fell over the small island, Goku practiced meditation techniques under Roshi's guidance on the beach while Bulma used the house's communication equipment to contact her father. Neither noticed the small, bird-like drone hovering high above the island, its cameras focused on the young boy who sat cross-legged on the sand, a faint aura of energy occasionally pulsing around him. Miles away, in a hidden Red Ribbon Army base, drive. Jero reviewed the footage with growing excitement. Remarkable, he murmured. The energy readings are unlike anything we've ever recorded. If harnessed properly, this power could revolutionize my android designs. Beside him, Commander Red, the diminutive leader of the Red Ribbon Army, watched with narrowed eyes. I don't care about your scientific curiosity, Doctor. Can this boy's power help us find the Dragon Balls? Oh, much more than that, Jero replied, his eyes never leaving the monitor. With this kind of energy at our disposal, we wouldn't need mythical wishes. We could reshape the world through force alone. Commander Red smiled coldly. Then I want him captured. Alive and unharmed. Dispatch T. He Muscle Tower Division, and tell General Blue to prepare his special forces. We're going to acquire our new weapon. As the orders went out, the future of the world hung in the balance, all centered around a young boy with a monkey tail who was only beginning to understand the extraordinary power that flowed through his veins. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Power Without Mastery. 5 years had passed since Goku first arrived at Master Roshi's island. The once small boy with a monkey tail had grown into a teenager of 14, his body lean and muscular from constant training. Though still shorter than average for his age, Goku's physical presence commanded attention, an aura of barely contained energy that seemed to radiate from his very being. The morning sun cast long shadows across Kame-Hausa's small island as Goku stood knee-deep in the ocean, eyes closed in concentration. The water around him remained perfectly still, defying the natural currents that should have created ripples against his legs. Focus. Master Roshi called from the shore, his aged voice carrying across the water. Control isn't about suppression, it's about harmony. Let your energy flow naturally, but direct it with purpose. Sweat beaded on Goku's forehead despite the cool morning air. Slowly, the water around him began to rise, forming a perfect sphere that enveloped him from the knees down. The sphere expanded gradually until Goku stood within a dome of suspended seawater 6 feet in diameter. Maintain it, Roshi instructed. Feel the weight of each water molecule. Support them individually, not as a mass. For several minutes, Goku held the water suspended, his face a mask of concentration. Then, with deliberate care, he began to separate the dome into smaller spheres, first 2, then 4. Then 16 perfect globes of water orbiting around him like planets around a sun. Excellent, Roshi nodded approvingly. Now, return them to the ocean. Gently. This final step had proven the most difficult during previous attempts. Releasing energy controlled was often harder than accumulating it. Goku exhaled slowly, allowing each water sphere to lower until it touched the ocean's surface. Then seamlessly reintegrating with the sea without so much as a splash. When the last sphere had been returned, Goku opened his eyes, a broad grin spreading across his face. I did it, Master Roshi. The old martial arts master allowed himself a small smile. Better, much better than last week when you flooded my living room. Goku waded back to shore, his GI still perfectly dry thanks to the precise control he'd maintained over the water. That was an accident. I got distracted when Bulma called. A warrior cannot afford distractions, Roshi admonished, though his tone remained gentle. Your power, Goku, is unlike anything I've encountered in my 300 years. But great power without perfect control is a danger to everyone around you. The teenager nodded, his expression suddenly serious. I know, like what happened with Grandpa Gohan. Over the years, fragments of memory had returned to Goku about the night his grandfather died, enough for him to understand that his uncontrolled transformation under the full moon had been responsible. Master Roshi had helped him piece together the truth about his Saiyan heritage after consulting ancient texts that spoke of warriors from beyond the stars. You've made remarkable progress, Roshi said, placing a gnarled hand on Goku's shoulder. 5 years ago, you couldn't light a candle without burning down the house. Now you can manipulate water at the molecular level. But I still can't control the Uzaru transformation, Goku said quietly. Some things take time. For now, avoiding the full moon is the wisest course. Roshi turned toward the small pink house. Come, breakfast should be ready. Launch is cooking this morning, and hopefully it's her blue-haired self doing the cooking. Goku's face brightened at the mention of food, thoughts of training temporarily forgotten. As they approached Kame House, The door swung open to reveal a blue-haired woman in an apron, her gentle features breaking into a smile. Perfect timing. The pancakes are just ready, Launch said in her soft, melodic voice. Any sign of Bulma? Goku asked, following his nose toward the delicious aroma wafting from the kitchen. She called from Capsule Corp, Launch replied. She's finalizing the new key dampening bracelet design and will be here this afternoon. Master Roshi chuckled. That girl's brilliant mind might be the only thing that can keep pace with your growing power, Goku. Inside, they settled around the table as Launch served stacks of pancakes, a normal portion for Roshi and herself, and a tower that would feed a small army for Goku. The teenager's Saiyan metabolism required enormous amounts of food to fuel his boundless energy. The 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament is 3 months away, Roshi mentioned between bites. I think you're ready to compete this year, Goku. Goku looked up, cheeks bulging with pancakes. Really? You mean it? Your control has improved enough that you won't accidentally kill an opponent. The old master said dryly. Besides, testing yourself against other fighters will provide valuable experience. Will you be competing too, Master Roshi? Launch asked, refilling his coffee cup. No, my tournament days are behind me. But I expect my former students will make appearances. Krillin has been training with the Orin Temple monks, and Yamcha has been developing his own style in the desert. Goku swallowed his massive mouthful. What about Tien and Xiaosu? You said they were the strongest disciples of the Crane School. I suspect they'll be there as well, Roshi nodded. The rivalry between the Turtle and Crane schools goes back generations. The conversation continued pleasantly until Launch reached for the pepper shaker to season her eggs. Before Roshi could stop her, she inhaled a small amount of the spice and immediately sneezed. The transformation was instantaneous. Her blue hair turned blonde, her gentle features sharpened, and her eyes narrowed dangerously. What are you two looking at? She demanded, her voice now rough and aggressive. Good morning to you too, blonde Launch, Roshi said cautiously. We were just discussing the upcoming tournament. Tournament? Huh? Blonde Launch stabbed her fork into her pancakes. Count me in. I could use the prize money for that weapons shipment I've been eyeing. Goku, long accustomed to Launch's dual personality, simply continued eating. 5 years ago, Bulma had discovered Launch wandering the roads, a woman with a peculiar condition that caused her personality to switch completely whenever she sneezed. Blue-haired Launch was gentle and domestic, while her blonde counterpart was aggressive and had connections to various criminal enterprises. When the Red Ribbon Army had intensified their hunt for Goku, Roshi had suggested bringing Launch to the island for her own protection. Her unique abilities made her a valuable ally and her dual nature provided perfect cover. What nobody had anticipated was how quickly she would become part of their unusual family unit. No killing in tournament matches, Roshi reminded her firmly. They're very strict about that rule. Blonde Launch rolled her eyes. Spoilsport. What's the point of fighting if you can't finish the job? The point is to test your skills against worthy opponents, Goku said seriously. Grandpa Gohan always said a true martial artist fights to improve themselves, not to harm others. Whatever, kid. Launch stood abruptly. I'm going to clean my guns. Someone's gotta keep this island safe from those Red Ribbon goons. As she stalked off to her room, Roshi sighed. Perhaps you should train on the far side of the island today, Goku. Blonde Launch tends to use anything that moves as target practice. Goku nodded, finishing his last stack of pancakes in record time. I wanted to work on my speed anyway. Race you to the North Shore. In a blur of movement, he was gone, leaving only a gust of wind that rattled the dishes. Roshi shook his head fondly. That boy, even with 5 years of training, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of his potential. At Capsule Corporation headquarters in West City, Bulma Briefs stood in her private laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex energy patterns. At 19, she had already revolutionized several fields of science, building upon her father's genius while charting her own path in energy research. Her current project, displayed on the central screen, was her most challenging yet, a bracelet designed to help Goku regulate his seemingly infinite ki reserves. The previous prototypes had all failed catastrophically. One had shattered, another had melted, and the third had actually absorbed so much energy that T created a temporary blackout across half of West City. Try calibrating the absorption matrix to fluctuate with his output, drive. Briefs suggested, peering over his daughter's shoulder. The elderly scientist, still spry despite his age, had been fascinated by Goku's unique energy signature since Bulma first brought the boy to Capsule Corp for testing years ago. I've tried that, Dad, Bulma replied, frustration evident in her voice. The problem isn't absorption, it's that his energy doesn't follow standard physics. It's like, it creates more of itself from nothing. Conservation of energy is one of our most fundamental laws. Dr. Briefs mused, stroking his mustache. If Goku's power truly violates that principle, then he's not just unusual, he's impossible, Bulma finished. Yet here we are. She made a series of adjustments to the holographic model, then transferred the new parameters to the physical prototype, a sleek, metallic bracelet resting in a containment field at the center of the lab. Various sensors and cables connected it to monitoring equipment. What if we approach this from a different angle? She said suddenly, eyes lighting up with inspiration. Instead of trying to suppress or absorb his energy, what if we create a system that helps him consciously direct it? Dr. Briefs adjusted his glasses. Like a pressure valve rather than a dam. Exactly. Bulma began typing rapidly, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards. We don't need to limit his power. We need to help him channel it effectively. As she worked, the laboratory door slid open to admit a tall, scarred man in a desert combat uniform. Yamcha had changed significantly from the desert bandit Bulma and Goku had encountered years ago. His once wild hair was now cut shorter, and his face had matured, though he maintained a roguish charm. Hey, Bulma, he called, leaning against a workbench. Still trying to create a leash for our resident alien powerhouse. Bulma didn't look up from her work. It's not a leash, Yamcha. It's a tool to help Goku maintain control while he continues to grow stronger. I was just teasing, Yamcha replied, raising his hands defensively. You've been cooped up in this lab for weeks. I thought maybe you'd like to grab dinner tonight before you head back to the island. Their relationship had evolved in unexpected ways over the years. What began as teenage attraction had matured into something more complicated. They dated occasionally, but Bulma's dedication to her research and Yamcha's fighting career often pulled them in different directions. Can't tonight, she answered, still focused on her calculations. This prototype needs to be ready by this afternoon. Goku's control is improving, but with the tournament coming up, he needs all the help he can get. Yamcha's expression fell slightly. The tournament, right, I'll be competing too, you know. Of course you will, Bulma said, finally looking up with an apologetic smile. And I'll be cheering for both of you. But Goku's situation is unique. Everything about Goku is unique, Yamcha muttered, a hint of jealousy creeping into his voice. Sometimes I think you care more about his power levels than anything else. Bulma's eyes narrowed. That's not fair. You know how dangerous the Red Ribbon Army is. They haven't given up their hunt for him. I know, Yamcha sighed. Sorry. Pre-tournament nerves, I guess. Speaking of which, I should get back to training if I want any chance against Goku or Tien. As he turned to leave, Bulma called after him, rain check on dinner. Next week, Yamcha offered a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Sure thing, Bulma. After he left, drive. Briefs gave his daughter a knowing look. That young man still cares deeply for you. I care about him too. Dad, Bulma replied, returning to her work. But right now, this is more important. The Red Ribbon Army is developing new technology specifically designed to track and capture Goku. Our sources say they've devoted an entire division to studying key energy. Led by Dr. Gero, if my intelligence is correct, drive. Briefs said grimly. A brilliant mind, but utterly without ethics. If he ever managed to harness Goku's infinite energy, the implications hung in the air between them, too terrible to voice. With renewed determination, Bulma focused on completing the bracelet that might help protect not just Goku, but potentially the entire world. High in the mountains, in a fortress known as Muscle Tower, Commander Red stared impatiently at the video screen where drive. Gero's austere face was displayed. It's been 5 years, Doctor, the diminutive commander snapped. 5 years since we first detected the boy's energy signature, and still you've failed to capture him. Dr. Jero's expression remained impassive. With respect, Commander, you fail to appreciate the complexity of the situation. The boy's power has grown exponentially under Roshi's tutelage. Direct confrontation is no longer viable. Then what do you propose? More waiting. More studying from afar. Commander Red slammed his fist on the desk. I didn't build the Red Ribbon Army to observe. I built it to conquer. Quote, and conquer we shall, Jero replied calmly. But with intelligence rather than brute force. My sources indicate the boy will be participating in the upcoming World Martial Arts Tournament. This presents an opportunity. Go on, Red said, leaning forward. In a tournament setting, he will be constrained by rules. His mentor has trained him to control his power, to hold back against weaker opponents. This gives us an advantage. Jero adjusted his glasses. I've been developing specialized technology based on the data we've gathered over the years, technology designed specifically to counteract his unique energy signature. What kind of technology? Jero's thin lips curved into a cold smile. I call it the key disruptor. It emits a frequency T temporarily interferes with a fighter's ability to control their internal energy. For normal martial artists, it would merely be disorienting. But for someone like the boy, whose power is so vast and volatile, it could cause him to lose control, Commander Red finished, understanding dawning. Creating chaos that we could exploit to capture him. Precisely. And I've selected the perfect operative to deploy this technology. Jero reached off-screen and pulled forward a woman with striking blue eyes and blonde hair tied in a tight ponytail. This is Agent Haski, our foremost infiltration specialist. She will pose as a tournament competitor while carrying the key disruptor. The woman bowed slightly. It will be my pleasure to deliver the boy to you, Commander. Red studied her for a moment, then nodded. Very well, Doctor. But I want results this time. The Dragon Balls remain our primary objective, and I'm convinced this boy is key to finding them. As the transmission ended, drive. Jero turned to Haski with a severe expression. Commander Red still believes we're after the Dragon Balls for his petty wish to be taller. Let him keep his delusions. And our true objective? Haski asked. The boy himself. Jero replied, turning to a wall of monitors displaying various angles of Goku in training, recorded by stealth drones over the years. His energy signature defies all known scientific principles. It appears to be truly infinite, self-generating and limitless. If I can isolate and replicate that characteristic, your android project would have unlimited power sources, Haski concluded. Not just the androids. Jero's eyes gleamed with ambition. Imagine weapons that never need recharging, vehicles that never require refueling, entire cities powered by a single energy core. The possibilities are limitless, just like the boy himself. Back on Master Roshi's island, Goku stood on the northern shore, practicing a technique that had taken him 3 years to develop. With precise movements, he formed spheres of concentrated ki energy, then manipulated their density, shape, and temperature without allowing them to dissipate. Good, but you're still fluctuating on the micro level, came a feminine voice from behind him. Goku turned to see Bulma approaching, a silver case in her hands and her blue hair blowing in the ocean breeze. At 19, she had grown into a striking young woman, her scientific brilliance matched by a confidence that seemed to radiate from her. Bulma. Goku's face lit up with genuine pleasure. You're earlier than I expected. The prototype exceeded performance expectations in the lab, she replied with a proud smile. I couldn't wait to test it in the field. She set the case on a nearby rock and opened it to reveal the sleek metal bracelet nested in protective foam. Unlike previous versions, this one was elegant and minimalist, a simple band with subtle energy conduits visible beneath its surface. It doesn't look like much, Goku observed, picking it up curiously. That's by design. The previous models were too bulky and drew too much attention. Bulma took the bracelet from him and carefully secured it around his right wrist. This one works with your energy rather than against it. Think of it as a training partner rather than a restraint. As the bracelet clasped shut, Goku felt a slight tingling sensation as the device synchronized with his energy field. It feels aware somehow. It is, in a way, Bulma explained, activating a holographic display that projected from the bracelet's surface. I incorporated adaptive technology based on your unique energy signature. The bracelet learns from your power fluctuations and provides subtle feedback to help you maintain optimal control. Goku tested the feel of the bracelet by generating a small key sphere above his palm. The holographic display showed real-time analytics of his energy output, highlighting inefficiencies and suggesting micro-adjustments. As he implemented these changes, the key sphere stabilized into a perfect globe of pulsing energy. "Wow, this is amazing, Bulma!" Goku exclaimed, his face alight with childlike wonder despite his teenage years. "It's like having Master Roshi's guidance but for the parts of my energy I can't even see." Bulma beamed at his reaction, a flush of pride coloring her cheeks. "Try something more complex. The bracelet's adaptive algorithms should help you maintain precision even as you increase power output." Goku nodded, then closed his eyes in concentration. The key sphere began to transform, expanding, contracting, shifting through colors from blue to white to gold. Then, with careful precision, Goku split the sphere into multiple smaller orbs that orbited around him in a complex, three-dimensional pattern. The display on the bracelet adjusted in real time, providing subtle cues that allowed Goku to maintain perfect equilibrium between the spheres. What would normally require his complete concentration now seemed almost effortless. "This is incredible," he breathed, opening his eyes to watch the dancing lights he had created. It's like the bracelet understands what I'm trying to do before I even fully think it." "That's exactly right," Bulma said, watching the display with scientific satisfaction. "I designed it to anticipate energy fluctuations based on your intent. The more you use it, the better it will become at predicting and supporting your techniques." Goku carefully dissipated the energy spheres, then turned to Bulma with uncharacteristic seriousness. "This will help with the tournament, won't it? I won't have to worry about accidentally hurting someone." "That's the idea," she nodded. "Though you should still exercise caution. The bracelet is a tool, not a failsafe." His face broke into a warm smile as he impulsively wrapped Bulma in a hug, lifting her off her feet with his Saiyan strength. "Thank you, Bulma. You're the greatest scientist in the world." Bulma laughed as he set her down, though a faint blush colored her cheeks. Over the years, their relationship had evolved from the simple friendship of a child and Tina to something more complex as Goku matured. She still saw glimpses of the innocent boy she'd met in the mountains, but increasingly, she found herself aware of the powerful young man he was becoming. "Just promise me you'll be careful at the tournament," she said, her tone growing serious. "My father's sources indicate the Red Ribbon Army hasn't given up their interest in you. They might see the tournament as an opportunity." Goku's expression hardened slightly, a look that seemed out of place on his normally carefree features. "Let them try. I'm not the same kid they chased 5 years ago." "That's exactly what worries me," Bulma replied softly. "Your power has grown so much, Goku. If they provoke you into losing control in a public venue like the tournament." The unspoken implications hung between them. Despite years of training with Master Roshi, Goku's power still occasionally surged beyond his control when his emotions ran high, particularly anger. The destruction such outbursts could cause had increased proportionally with his growing strength. "I won't lose control," Goku promised, holding up his wrist with the bracelet. "Not with this helping me. And not with you and Master Roshi there." Bulma smiled, though concern still lingered in her eyes. "Speaking of Master Roshi, we should show him the bracelet. He'll want to monitor your training with it before the tournament." As they walked back toward Kame House, neither noticed the tiny drone hovering high above the island, its advanced cameras having recorded every detail of their interaction, and the new technology now adorning Goku's wrist. 3 months passed quickly, filled with intensive training as Goku mastered the use of the key-dampening bracelet. The device proved even more effective than Bulma had hoped, allowing Goku to perform increasingly complex energy manipulations while maintaining precise control. Under Master Roshi's guidance, he developed new techniques that harmonized with the bracelet's feedback system, creating a fighting style that was both powerful and disciplined. The day before the tournament, the small group gathered at Kame House for a final strategy session. Master Roshi, Bulma, both versions of Launch She had sneezed twice during the meeting. Goku, and a newly arrived Krillin sat around the living room as Roshi outlined what to expect. The World Martial Arts Tournament has changed since my day. The old master explained. More competitors, stricter rules, and significantly more public attention. You'll be fighting in front of thousands of spectators, with millions more watching via television. Television, Goku repeated, still unfamiliar with many aspects of modern technology despite Bulma's efforts to educate him. You mean people all over the world will see me fight? Exactly. Roshi nodded. Which means you must be extra careful about controlling your power, Goku. A minor slip that might go unnoticed in private training could cause a Jor incident on international television. Krillin, who had grown into a confident young fighter during his years training at the Orin Temple, leaned forward. Is Goku really that much stronger than when I last saw him? I've been working with the best monks in the world. Let's just say there's a reason I had Bulma create specialized technology to help him maintain control, Roshi said diplomatically. You've become an exceptional fighter, Krillin, but Goku's potential is unique. The bald teenager frowned slightly but nodded. His rivalry with Goku had developed into a genuine friendship over the years, though he still harbored hopes of someday surpassing him. What about the Red Ribbon Army? Blonde Launch asked, cleaning one of her many firearms with practiced efficiency. Ely think they'll make a move during the tournament. It would be tactically advantageous from their perspective, Roshi acknowledged. Goku will be constrained by tournament rules, surrounded by civilians, and in a public venue where his full power could cause catastrophic collateral damage. I've arranged additional security through Capsule Corporation, Bulma added. And I'll be monitoring for any unusual energy signatures or technology that might indicate Red Ribbon presence. Goku, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. I'm not worried about the Red Ribbon Army. I'm excited to test myself against other strong fighters. The others exchanged glances. Goku's enthusiasm for battle remained unchanged from childhood, though it had matured into a more focused desire for self-improvement rather than simple combat. Just remember, Roshi said sternly, a true martial artist fights with respect for their opponent and awareness of their surroundings. Victory at the cost of unnecessary harm is no victory at all. I understand, Master Roshi, Goku replied, his expression serious. I won't forget my training. As the meeting concluded and the others dispersed to prepare for tomorrow's departure, Bulma pulled Goku aside onto the porch overlooking the ocean. The setting sun cast long shadows across the beach, painting the water in shades of gold and crimson. I've made some final adjustments to the bracelet, she said, taking his wrist and activating a hidden panel on the device. This emergency protocol will activate if your power surges beyond safe parameters. It won't hurt you, but it will help disperse excess energy harmlessly. Goku watched as she worked, struck by how her blue hair caught the dying sunlight. You're always looking out for me, Bulma. Ever since you found me in the mountains. She looked up, surprised by his reflective tone. Of course I am. We're friends, aren't we? Yeah, but it's more than that. Goku's normally carefree expression turned thoughtful. Master Roshi teaches me how to fight better, but you understand parts of me that even I don't understand. Bulma felt a strange flutter in her chest at his words. Over the years, she had watched Goku grow from a wild child into someone increasingly complex, still innocent in many ways, yet possessing a depth of understanding that occasionally caught her off guard. Your power is fascinating from a scientific perspective, she said, trying to maintain professional distance. I've never encountered energy that behaves quite like yours. It's not just about my power though, is it? Goku asked, displaying that occasional insight that belied his usual naivety. You care about what happens to me. Bulma hesitated, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Of course I care, Goku. Everyone at Kame House does. Goku smiled, the moment of unusual perception passing as quickly as it had come. I know, and I care about all of you too. That's why I'll be extra careful at the tournament. As they returned inside, Bulma found herself troubled by the brief exchange. Goku was still only 14, physically mature for his age due to his Saiyan heritage, but in many ways still a child. Yet increasingly, she caught glimpses of the man he was becoming, powerful, perceptive, and with a charisma that went beyond his natural cheerfulness. The thought both intrigued and unsettled her as she prepared for what promised to be a tournament unlike any before it. The arena for the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament sprawled across Papaya Island like a modern coliseum. Its massive structure capable of seating over 50,000 spectators. Additional viewing platforms had been constructed around the periphery, and giant screens displayed close-up views of the fighting area for those seated farther back. The preliminary rounds were held in a separate building, where hundreds of fighters from across the world gathered to compete for 16 spots in the main tournament. Goku, Krillin, and Yamcha moved through these early matches with ease, their years of specialized training setting them far above the average competitor. "This is almost too easy," Yamcha commented as they watched the remaining preliminary bouts. The desert bandit-turned-fighter had developed his Wolf Fang fist technique into a formidable fighting style, earning him quick victories in his qualifying matches. "The real challenge will be in the finals," Krillin noted. "I've heard Tien Shinhan from the Crane School is competing this year. They say he's mastered techniques even Master Roshi doesn't know." Goku, who had been monitoring his energy levels through the bracelet's display, looked up with interest. "I hope he's strong. Most of these fighters barely make me use any power at all." "That's the point of the preliminaries," an unfamiliar female voice interjected. To weed out the weak, they turned to see a young woman approaching, perhaps 16 or 17. With long black hair tied in a bun and wearing a blue fighting outfit with a cape. Something about her struck Goku as vaguely familiar, though he couldn't place where he might have seen her before. "I'm Chi-Chi," she introduced herself with a formal bow. "Daughter of the Ox King of Fire Mountain." Krillin's eyes widened. "The Ox King, the legendary warrior who trained you, Ender Master Roshi alongside Goku's grandfather." Chi-Chi nodded, her gaze fixed on Goku with unusual intensity. "Yes, and you must be Son Goku. My father has told me stories about your grandfather, and about you." Goku tilted his head curiously. "About me, but I've never met the Ox King. He keeps informed about the activities of Master Roshi and his students," Chi-Chi explained. "Especially AF. Chair reports of a young boy with extraordinary powers began circulating 5 years ago." The subtle reference to Goku's first encounters with the Red Ribbon Army put the group on alert. Yamcha stepped forward slightly, his posture protective. "And what interest does the Ox King have in Goku's abilities?" he asked carefully. Chi-Chi's expression remained composed. "My father believes in preparing for threats to peace. The Red Ribbon Army's activities concern him, as does their interest in powerful fighters." Her gaze returned to Goku. "I've qualified for the main tournament. Perhaps we'll meet in the ring." As she walked away, Krillin let out a low whistle. "Well, she's intense. And pretty too." "She's strong," Goku observed, surprising his friends. "I could feel her ki. It's very focused and disciplined." "Since when do you notice girls, Goku?" Yamcha teased. "I don't notice girls," Goku replied, confused. "I notice fighters. And she's definitely a fighter." Before they could continue the conversation, a tournament official approached to inform them that the 16 finalists had been selected and the bracket assignments would be announced shortly. As they followed him to the main arena, Goku felt a strange tingling from his bracelet, a warning of nearby energy interference that Bulma had programmed as a precaution. Scanning the crowd, his eyes fell on a blonde woman in a tournament uniform he hadn't noticed before. Something about her seemed off, her movements too precise, her attention too focused on the participants rather than the event itself. When she noticed Goku watching her, she smiled in a way that didn't reach her eyes before disappearing into the crowd. The tournament official led them to a large board where the bracket was displayed. The 16 finalists gathered around as the announcer, a blonde man in sunglasses, explained the tournament format. "The rules are simple," he declared into his microphone. "Fighters will be eliminated if they surrender, are knocked unconscious, fall out of the ring, or remain down for a 10 count. Killing is strictly forbidden and will result in immediate disqualification." Goku studied the bracket with interest. His first match would be against a fighter named King Chappa, a former champion known for his 8-handed technique. Krillin would face Bacterian, a fighter whose primary weapon was his overwhelming stench. Yamcha was matched against Tien Shinhan of the Crane School, while Chi-Chi would fight against a competitor listed simply as Husky. "The first round will begin in 1 hour," the announcer concluded. Competitors should prepare themselves and report to the waiting area 15 minutes before their scheduled match. As the crowd dispersed, Bulma approached their group, her capsule core Operation ID giving her access to restricted areas. Everything okay? My scanners detected an unusual energy pattern a few minutes ago. Goku's bracelet picked up something too, Krillin confirmed. You think the Red Ribbon Army is here? Almost certainly, Bulma nodded grimly. But they'd be fools to attempt anything obvious with this many witnesses. Stay alert, especially you, Goku. Remember your training. Control above all else. Goku nodded, his expression unusually serious. I won't forget, Bulma. I promise. The tournament began with a match between Krillin and Bacterian, which the young monk won handily despite his opponent's disgusting tactics. The crowd roared their approval as Krillin advanced to the next round, setting the tone for what promised to be an exciting tournament. Goku's first match against King Chappa drew particular attention. The former champion entered the ring with confidence, his reputation for undefeated victories preceding him. Goku, by contrast, appeared almost casual as he stepped onto the platform, adjusting the bracelet on his wrist with thoughtful precision. Fighters ready, the announcer called. Begin. King Chappa immediately launched, head into his famous eight-handed technique, a rapid series of punches designed to overwhelm opponents with their speed and unpredictability. To the audience, his arms seemed to multiply as they blurred with motion. Goku stood perfectly still, his eyes tracking the incoming attacks with preternatural focus. When King Chappa's fist was mere inches from his face, Goku simply wasn't there anymore. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. King Chappa froze, confused, until a light tap on his shoulder caused him to spin around. Goku stood behind him, smiling pleasantly. You're pretty fast, the Saiyan teen acknowledged. But your technique wastes energy. Watch. What followed was less a fight than a demonstration. Goku moved with such fluid grace that he seemed to flow around King Chappa's increasingly desperate attacks. The bracelet on his wrist glowed subtly, helping him modulate his speed and strength to remain impressive without becoming dangerously overwhelming. After allowing the former champion to exhaust himself, Goku finally counter-attacked, a single, perfectly placed palm strike to the solar plexus that sent King Chappa sliding to the edge of the ring. The man teetered on the boundary, windmilling his arms in a desperate attempt to regain balance. Goku appeared beside him in an instant, steadying him with a gentle hand. Careful, the rules say you lose if you fall out. King Chappa stared at him in disbelief, then at the hand preventing his ring out. Why would you help me? Because a good fight is about respect, Goku replied, echoing Master Roshi's teachings. Are you ready to continue? The former champion's expression shifted from confusion to determination. Yes, let's finish this properly. What followed was a more earnest exchange, with King Chappa fighting at the peak of his considerable ability. Goku matched him technique for technique, allowing the veteran fighter to showcase his skills before finally ending the match with a precise sweepin' G-kick that sent his opponent tumbling out of the ring. The crowd erupted in cheers as the announcer declared Goku the winner. Master Roshi, watching from the VIP section, nodded in approval. The boy had shown not just superior fighting ability, but also the wisdom to honor his opponent, a sign that his training went beyond mere physical techniques. As Goku left the ring, he was met by Chi-Chi, Ho had been watching intently from the competitor's area. That was impressive restraint, she said, her dark eyes studying him with new interest. My father said you possessed great power, but he didn't mention your discipline. Goku rubbed the back of his neck, slightly embarrassed by the praise. Master Roshi says power without control is just destruction. I've been working really hard on control. I can see that. Chi-Chi's formal demeanor softened slightly. My match is next. Perhaps you'll watch. Of course. Goku replied enthusiastically. I want to see everyone's techniques. Chi-Chi's opponent, the mysterious Husky, was already in the ring when she arrived. The blonde woman smiled pleasantly, though something in her eyes remained cold and calculating. Fighters ready, the announcer called. Begin. Unlike Goku's methodical approach, Chi-Chi launched into immediate action, a flurry of precise strikes that showcased her extensive training. Husky defended capably, her movements efficient and economical. To most observers, it appeared to be an evenly matched contest between skilled fighters. But Goku, watching closely from the sidelines, noticed something unusual. Hasuki seemed less interested in winning than in studying Chi-Chi's techniques. Her eyes constantly darted to the audience section where Goku stood, as if gauging his reactions. The match continued for several minutes, with Chi-Chi gradually gaining the upper hand through superior technique and conditioning. As she prepared a finishing move, something strange happened. Hasuki reached into her torn amant uniform and pressed a concealed device. Immediately, Goku's bracelet began to flash warning signals. A wave of disruptive energy pulsed through the arena, invisible to normal perception but painfully obvious to those sensitive to ki. Chi-Chi faltered mid-attack, momentarily disoriented by the interference with her energy flow. Hasuki seized the opportunity, landing a powerful kick that sent Chi-Chi tumbling toward the edge of the ring. The Ox King's daughter managed to recover at the last moment, flipping back to safety with impressive agility. "What was that?" Chi-Chi demanded, her fighting stance now more cautious. "What did you do?" Hasuki smiled enigmatically. "Just evening the odds, princess." In the audience, Bulma's handheld scanner was beeping urgently. "Key disruption technology," she muttered to Master Roshi. "Highly advanced. This has to be Drive Gero's work. Can you counter it?" The old master asked, his eyes never leaving the ring. "Not from here. The bracelet should protect Goku to some extent. But if the disruption increases in intensity." Back in the ring, Chi-Chi had adapted to the energy interference, adjusting her fighting style to rely more on physical technique than ki enhancement. With determined focus, she pressed Hasuki backward with a series of precise strikes, finally connecting with a powerful palm thrust that sent the blonde woman flying out of the ring. "Victory to Chi-Chi," the announcer declared as the crowd cheered. Hasuki rose from the ground, dusting herself off with a strange lack of disappointment for someone who had just been eliminated. As she passed Goku on her way to the exit, she whispered, "That was just a test, boy. The real show starts when you face the Crane School." Before Goku could respond, she disappeared into the crowd. He immediately sought out Bulma, who was already rushing toward him with concern etched on her face. "We have a problem," she said urgently. "That woman was Red Ribbon Army, almost certainly working with Dr. Gero based on the technology she deployed." "I felt it," Goku confirmed, showing her the warning displays on his bracelet. "It was like static in my energy. Not painful, just disorienting. That device was calibrated for normal fighters," Bulma explained. "Based on these readings, they're testing responses before deploying something stronger, probably during your later TCHES when you naturally use more power." Chi-Chi joined them, her face flushed from exertion but her eyes sharp with concern. That woman was not a regular competitor. Her technique was military, not martial arts. "Red Ribbon Army," Goku explained. "They've been after me for years." Chi-Chi's eyes widened. The rumors were true then. "My father sent me here partly to confirm them." She straightened her posture, suddenly formal. "As daughter of the Ox King, I offer our assistance against this threat." Before they could discuss further, the announcer called for the next match, Yamcha vs Tien Shinhan. The Desert Bandit entered the ring with confident strides, while his opponent, a bald man with 3 eyes, moved with cold precision. The match began explosively, with both fighters demonstrating advanced techniques. Yamcha's Wolf Fang fist clashed against Tien's crane style in a display that had the crowd on their feet. For several minutes, they appeared evenly matched, though Goku's trained eye could see that Tien was holding back, studying his opponent methodically. When Yamcha unleashed his new technique, the Spirit Ball, a controllable energy projectile, Tien revealed his true power. With movements too fast for most spectators to follow, he countered with the Tri-Beam, a devastating energy attack that overwhelmed Yamcha's Spirit Ball and struck the Desert Bandit directly. The impact sent Yamcha crashing to the edge of the ring. Though badly shaken, he struggled to his feet, determination evident in his stance. But as he prepared to continue, Tien suddenly clutched his head in pain. Goku's bracelet flashed warnings again. The key disruption technology had activated once more, this time at a higher intensity. Tien, highly attuned to energy manipulation, was particularly vulnerable to the interference. His third eye, specialized for energy perception, began to bleed slightly as the disruption intensified. Taking advantage of his opponent's distress, Yamcha launched a desperate attack. But Tien, despite the pain, reacted with instinctive precision. As Yamcha closed the distance, Tien executed a perfect counter, a leg sweep followed by a palm strike that sent the Desert Bandit tumbling out of the ring. Victory to Tien Shinhan, the announcer declared, though murmurs of concern spread through the crowd at the sight of blood trickling from the winner's third eye. As medical staff attended to Tien, Goku approached the three-eyed fighter with concern. That was the same energy disruption from the previous match, wasn't it? But stronger. Tien regarded Goku with suspicion. You know something about this. Not by choice, Goku replied grimly. Someone's targeting the tournament, specifically fighters who use ki manipulation. The three-eyed warrior studied Goku intently, his natural ability to sense energy allowing him to perceive the extraordinary power contained within the younger fighter. Your son Goku, Master Shen has spoken of you, the student of his rival, Roshi. Master Roshi never mentioned any rivalry, Goku said, confused. He wouldn't, Tien replied cryptically. But know this, whatever is causing these disruptions, it's escalating. By the final rounds, it could become dangerous to anyone with significant ki reserves. His warning was punctuated by a commotion in the audience. Security personnel were converging on a section of the stands where a small device had been discovered attached beneath a seat. Bulma pushed through the crowd, her scientific expertise granting her access. It's a key disruption node, she confirmed after a brief examination. Part of a network, there must be others placed throughout the arena. Master Roshi joined them, his aged face grave. The tournament committee is considering postponement until the arena can be secured. But I fear that's exactly what our enemies want, to force Goku into an uncontrolled environment. We can't postpone, Goku said firmly. If we do, they'll just try again somewhere else. Maybe where more people could get hurt. The bracelet Bulma made can help me resist the disruption. I should continue. Chi-Chi, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. My father always said that sometimes the most direct path through danger is straight ahead. If these people want to target the tournament, let them reveal themselves fully. A trap works both ways, Tien agreed unexpectedly. If we're aware of it, we can turn it against its creators. As the tournament officials conferred anxiously, the four fighters, Goku, Chi-Chi, Tien, and Krillin, formed an unlikely alliance. Despite coming from different schools and backgrounds, they shared a common purpose, to protect the innocent spectators and expose the true threat behind the disruptions. The decision was made to continue the tournament with enhanced security. Metal detectors and energy scanners were hastily deployed at all entrances, and Capsule Corporation security personnel supplemented the regular tournament guards. As the quarterfinals approached, Goku found himself matched against a nervous Krillin, while Chi-Chi would face Tien Shinhan. The disruption devices had been partially neutralized, but Bulma warned that more sophisticated technology was likely waiting to be deployed. Be careful out there, she told Goku as he prepared for his match. The bracelet's protective capabilities have limits. If you feel your control slipping, forfeit the match. No victory is worth the risk. Goku nodded, though his Saiyan blood thrilled at the challenge ahead. I'll be careful, Bulma. But I won't let the Red Ribbon Army dictate my actions through fear. As he stepped into the ring to face his longtime friend Krillin, Goku could feel unseen eyes watching him intently, measuring, calculating. Waiting for the perfect moment to spring their trap. The true test of his power and control was about to begin, with stakes far higher than any tournament victory. The quarterfinal match between Goku and Krillin began with a respectful bow between friends. Though they had trained together under Master Roshi, their paths had diverged over the years, with Krillin developing his OWN style at the Orin Temple while Goku's unique abilities necessitated specialized training. Don't hold back on account of our friendship, Krillin said with a confident grin. I've been looking forward to testing myself against you. Goku smiled in return. I wouldn't insult you by holding back, Krillin. Let's give them a good show. What followed was a display of technical martial arts at its finest. Krillin's years at the Orin Temple had refined his technique to near perfection, his movements economical and precise. Goku matched him with fluid adaptability, shifting fighting styles to counter each of Krillin's approaches. For the first few minutes, they fought entirely without ki enhancement, pure physical combat that showcased their mastery of traditional martial arts. The crowd watched in appreciation as punches, kicks, blocks, and counters flowed in a seamless dance of offense and defense. Then, by unspoken agreement, they escalated. Krillin was the first to incorporate ki into his techniques, his punches suddenly carrying impact that belied his small stature. Goku responded in kind, his movements becoming faster, his strikes more powerful. The bracelet on Goku's wrist worked continuously, helping him modulate his energy output to match Krillin's level, providing challenge without overwhelming his friend. The holographic display flashed occasional warnings about external interference, but the disruption remained minimal during this match. "You've improved a lot," Goku said during a brief respite as they circled each other. "That new technique with the afterimage feint is impressive." "Thanks," Krillin replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "But I can tell you're still holding back. Show me what you've really got, Goku." Goku hesitated, glancing briefly at the bracelet. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. I didn't come here to fight a watered-down version of my friend." With a nod of respect, Goku adjusted the bracelet's settings, allowing himself access to Mo.Ri of his power, though still far from his full capability. The change was immediately noticeable, an aura of energy becoming visible around him as the air itself seemed to vibrate with potential. Krillin's eyes widened slightly, but his determined expression never faltered. He launched into his ultimate technique, a rapid series of energy blasts followed by a diving attack from above. The strategy would have overwhelmed most opponents, forcing them to choose between defending against the energy barrage or the physical strike. Goku chose neither. Instead, he created a controlled energy field around himself that neutralized Krillin's blasts, then met the diving attack with a perfectly timed counter. Their collision created a shockwave that rippled through the arena, drawing gasps from the audience. When the dust settled, Krillin found himself held suspended over the edge of the ring, Goku's hand firmly gripping his tournament uniform. "I think this is checkmate," Goku said with a friendly smile. "Unless you've got another trick." Krillin laughed, shaking his head. "Not this time, I concede." Goku pulled him back to safety as the announcer declared the match over. The crowd roared their approval for what had been a spectacular display of skill and sportsmanship. As they left the ring together, Krillin glanced at Goku with newfound respect. "That wasn't even close to your full power, was it?" "No," Goku admitted quietly, "but it's not about how much power you have, Krillin. It's about how you use it. You're one of the most skilled fighters I've ever faced." The monk B met at the compliment as they rejoined the others in the waiting area. Master Roshi approached, nodding in approval. "Well fought, both of you. A credit to the Turtle School." Their moment of camaraderie was interrupted by the announcement of the next match, Chi-Chi vs Tien Shinhan. The daughter of the Ox King entered the ring with determined strides, while the three-eyed warrior moved with the cold precision characteristic of the Crane School. The match began cautiously, both fighters probing for weaknesses. Chi-Chi's style emphasized powerful, direct techniques, a reflection of her hers influence, while Tien employed the more calculating approach of the Crane School. For several minutes, they appeared evenly matched, though Goku could see that Tien was gradually gaining the upper hand through superior experience and energy control. Chi-Chi fought valiantly, her determination making up for the gap in raw power, but the outcome seemed increasingly inevitable. Then, just as Tien prepared to execute his finishing move, every electronic device in the arena simultaneously malfunctioned. Screens went blank, lights flickered, and a high-pitched whine filled the air, imperceptible to most, but painfully obvious to those sensitive to energy disturbances. Goku's bracelet flashed urgent warnings before its display fragmented into static. Across the arena, fighters and spectators with ki training clutched their heads in sudden pain as a massive disruption wave swept through the venue. Tien, particularly vulnerable due to his third eye's sensitivity, collapsed to one knee, blood once again streaming from his specialized organ. Chi-Chi staggered but remained standing, her less developed ki senses providing some insulation from the worst effects. In the audience, Master Roshi stood abruptly, his aged face contorted in a grimace. "This is no mere interference," it's an attack. Everyone with key training, shield yourselves. Bulma frantically worked at her portable computer, trying to trace the source of the disruption. It's coming from multiple points, a coordinated network far more sophisticated than the earlier devices. Back in the ring, Chi-Chi had reached Tien's side, her competitive spirit giving way to concern. Are you all right? What's happening? Energy, disruption, Tien managed through gritted teeth, targeted specifically at those with developed key sense. You need to. His warning was cut short as a new wave of disruption hit, stronger than before. This time, even Chi-Chi felt its effects, her limited key abilities enough to make her vulnerable. Goku vaulted over the barrier into the ring, ignoring the protests of tournament officials. The bracelet on his wrist was sparking now, its systems overloaded by the intensity of the interference. With a quick motion, he removed it, knowing that Bulma's safety protocols would prevent it from becoming a danger. It's a trap, he said urgently, helping both Chi-Chi and Tien to their feet. You're targeting anyone with key abilities, trying to incapacitate the strongest fighters. Around the arena, chaos was erupting as security personnel attempted to evacuate civilians. Through the confusion, Goku spotted multiple figures converging on the ring, men and women in civilian clothes but moving with military precision. The Red Ribbon Army had shed their disguises and launched their operation. Get the civilians out, Goku instructed Chi-Chi, who had recovered enough to stand unaided. Tien, can you fight? The three-eyed warrior wiped blood from his face, his expression hardening. Aga, inst those who would use such dishonorable tactics. Absolutely. As Red Ribbon operatives approached from all directions, Goku faced a critical decision. Without the bracelet's assistance, controlling his power amid the disruptive energy would be exponentially more difficult. Using enough force to defeat the attackers without causing catastrophic collateral damage would require perfect focus, something increasingly difficult to maintain as the disruption intensified. Goku. Bulma's voice cut through the chaos as she pushed through the crowd toward him. Don't try to fight them here. The disruption is designed specifically to make you lose control. He knew she was right. The entire operation had been engineered to place him in exactly this position, surrounded by civilians, under energy disruption that affected his control. Facing enough threat to justify using his power. If he fought at the level needed to defeat the Red Ribbon forces, the risk of collateral damage was enormous. But before he could respond, a familiar blonde woman stepped forward from among the operatives, Husky, now dressed in Red Ribbon Army attire rather than tournament clothes. Son Goku, she called, her voice amplified by a device at her throat. You have two options. Surrender yourself to the Red Ribbon Army for study, or watch as we demonstrate the full capabilities of our disruption technology on everyone in this arena with key sensitivity. To emphasize her point, she adjusted a control on her wrist, causing the disruption to spike briefly. Across the arena, Master Roshi, Tien, and other key-sensitive individuals cried out in pain. The choice is simple, Husky continued. Your cooperation, or their suffering. Goku's fists clenched at his sides, a visible aura of energy beginning to manifest around him as his anger rose. The ground beneath his feet cracked slightly, small pebbles rising into the air as his power instinctively responded to his emotions. That's it, Husky smiled coldly. Let your anger guide you. Show us the true extent of your power. In that moment, Goku understood the full depth of the trap. They wanted him to lose control, to demonstrate his maximum output under observable conditions. Whether he surrendered or fought, they would achieve their objective, gathering data on his unique energy signature. Taking a deep breath, Goku closed his eyes, centering himself as Master Roshi had taught him. When he opened them again, his expression was calm, resolved. I choose a third option, he said quietly. With movements too fast for normal human perception, Goku launched into action, not attacking the Red Ribbon operatives, but moving directly toward Husky. Before she could react, he had destroyed the control device on her wrist with a precision strike that left her hand unharmed. The disruption wavered momentarily as its control node failed. In that brief window of clarity, Goku extended his senses, locating the network of devices planted throughout the arena. With perfect economy of movement, he systematically disabled them, moving with such speed that to observers, he seemed to teleport from point to point around the venue. As the last disruption node fell silent, the Red Ribbon operatives found themselves facing not just Goku, but the combined forces of the tournament fighters, Tien, Chi-Chi, Krillin, and others who had recovered once the energy interference ceased. "This is over," Goku stated firmly, returning to stand before Hasuke. "Tell Drive Jero that if he wants to study my energy, he should ask directly instead of endangering innocents." Hasuke's composed demeanor faltered for the first time. "How did you know about Dr. Jero?" "Because only someone with his scientific genius could create technology capable of disrupting Ki at this level," Bulma interjected, joining them with a recovered Master Roshi at her side. "And only someone with his complete lack of ethics would deploy it in a crowded venue." Security forces were converging now. Both tournament officials and Capsule Corporation personnel. The Red Ribbon operatives, realizing their plan had failed and their technological advantage neutralized, began a strategic withdrawal. Hasuke's cold smile returned as she stepped backward. "This isn't over, boy. Dr. Jero has only begun his work. Today was merely data collection." Before anyone could stop her, she deployed a smoke bomb that filled the area with thick, acrid clouds. By the time it cleared, she and the other operatives had vanished, leaving behind only their disabled technology. As order gradually returned to the arena, tournament officials conferred about whether to continue the competition. Given the extensive disruption and potential security concerns, the decision was made to postpone the semifinals until the following day. After a thorough sweep of the venue, that evening, a subdued group gathered in Bulma's temporary laboratory set up near the tournament grounds. Goku, Master Roshi, Krillin, Chi-Chi, and surprisingly, Tien Shinhan, watched as Bulma examined the remains of the disruption devices. "The technology is years ahead of anything commercially available," she concluded, looking up from her microscope. "Jero has made significant advances in energy manipulation. These devices don't just interfere with Ki, they analyze it, mapping its unique characteristics." "So this who-la attack was just to gather data on Goku?" Krillin asked. "Not just Goku," Tien interjected. "All of us. Different fighters use Ki in different ways. By disrupting everyone with energy sensitivity, they could analyze multiple signature types simultaneously." Master Roshi nodded gravely. "The Crane School and Turtle School represent different approaches to Ki manipulation. By studying both, along with Goku's unique energy, they could potentially develop more sophisticated technology. But what's their ultimate goal?" Chi-Chi wondered. "What does this drive Jero want with this information?" Bulma's expression darkened. "Based on intelligence from my father's sources, Jero has been obsessed with creating artificial humans, what he calls androids. Beings with unlimited energy that never tire or age. And Goku's energy signature," Krillin began, "is as close to unlimited as Jero has ever detected," Bulma finished. "If he could replicate it, his androids would have power beyond anything we can imagine." Goku, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. "Then we need to stop him before he succeeds. The Red Ribbon Army is dangerous enough already, if they had access to unlimited power." "It won't be easy," Master Roshi cautioned. "The Red Ribbon Army has bases worldwide, and Jero himself remains elusive." "My father would help," Chi-Chi offered unexpectedly. Quote, "The Ox King has been monitoring the Red Ribbon Army's activities for years. He has resources, information." Tien straightened his posture. "The Crane School might assist as well. Master Shen may have questionable methods. But he despises the Red Ribbon Army for their attempt to steal martial arts secrets." Bulma looked around at the unlikely alliance forming before her, former rivals and new allies united by a common threat. Then perhaps something good has come from today's events after all. We're stronger together than separately. As discussions continued into the night, plans forming and alliances strengthening. Goku stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. The stars above seemed particularly bright, as if offering silent witness to the path unfolding before him. Chi-Chi joined him shortly, her formal demeanor softened by the day's shared challenges. "Your restraint today was impressive," she said quietly. "You could have destroyed those people, but you chose precision over power." Goku smiled slightly. "Power without control is just destruction. My grandfather taught me that before I could even understand what it meant. My father says your grandfather was an extraordinary man. He was. Goku agreed. I wish he could see how far I've come. There was a time when I couldn't control my power at all. Chi-Chi studied him thoughtfully. The tournament may have been interrupted, but I believe you would have won. Your abilities are unlike anything I've seen. Thanks, Goku replied, slightly embarrassed by the praise. But the tournament wasn't really about winning for me. It was about testing my control, seeing how far I've progressed. And now, with the Red Ribbon Army actively targeting you. Goku's expression grew serious, his gaze turning toward the horizon where, somewhere, Drive. Jero continued his dangerous work. Now I need to master my power completely. Not just for myself, but for everyone who might be endangered by what Jero creates. As they stood in comfortable silence beneath the stars, the young Saiyan felt a strange sense of destiny unfolding. The path ahead would require more than raw power, it would demand wisdom, strategy, and perfect harmony between his limitless energy and his growing understanding of when and how to use it. The Red Ribbon Army had made their move, revealing both their intentions and their technological capabilities. The next move would be his, and this time, he wouldn't be reacting to their trap, but setting one of his own. Chapter 2 End.